Are we live?
99% voting.
Oh.
I think we're live.
I think we are. Did Alex Slack you yet?
Yes, we are live. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
I can't see the audience, correct?
No. Correct. That's correct.
Great. Just wanted to make sure. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 2023 Q4 Symposium focused on career architecture, demand drive, and beyond. My name is Kara, and for those of you that don't know me, I head up the HR department at Demand Drive, and I'm hosting today's symposium, helping facilitate some meaningful conversations how you can leverage the SDR experience to pursue various paths. So before we get into the context of today's session, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Before we, can you still see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Yes.
I'm struggling to just get. Before we get into the context of today's session, I wanted to introduce our esteemed panelists for today's discussion. We have AJ, Mike Mahoney, and former Demand Drive employee Christian. Shout out to you. Panelists, I'm happy to turn things over to you to introduce yourselves, your role, maybe a brief introduction about how you've leveraged your time at Demand Drive to move forward in your career. So, Chelsea, I'll hand it off to you.
Yeah, excited to start. First and foremost, I'm excited to be on the panel this time because I'm used to being in Kara's shoes, so this is a lot of fun. I'm pretty sure everybody in the audience knows me, but in case you don't, my name's Chelsea Leahy. I head up our training department here at Demand Drive. I've been with the company since 2015, started back then in the SDR role. And I did that role for about 3.5 years. I worked across a handful of different clients throughout that time, worked specifically mostly in the healthcare space, so in the real estate space, and also on Frontier, which is still a current client of ours. And then in 2018, I transitioned into the training role that I'm in today, where I have a heavy focus in, getting all of the new folks that joined the company up and running and ready to go to get a jump start on their program. So I'm super excited to be here today and a part of this conversation. And yeah, I'll hand it off to you, AJ.
Thank you, Chelsea. Hello, everyone. I probably actually don't know a ton of you. Don't have the opportunity to meet a lot of the new hires that come in. So, hello, my name is AJ. I head up marketing here at Demand Drive. So, my career path is actually pretty similar to Chelsea's, just in a different pivot. Started at Demand Drive as an SDR about 10 years ago and spent a good 1.5 to 2 years really in that role, moving up into like the SDR, senior SDR, team lead type status, mostly working with clients in the HR, like applicant tracking space, and in cybersecurity, all while building out some of the foundational aspects of Demand Drive's marketing department. We, at the time, were not a very large company. We had like one other person doing marketing, and he ended up leaving early in, I think, 2016. And a lot of the responsibilities kind of shifted over to me, building out a lot of our content, creating messaging for the website, doing a lot of social marketing. And in 2017, I transitioned into that role full time and have been running our department ever since. So I'm excited to be here and talk about some of my experiences as an SDR and sort of what I was able to do to kind of move my career in the trajectory that I wanted to. Mahoney, I'll toss it over to you next.
Thanks, AJ. So my name is Mike. I've actually been here for almost 5 years. Started off as an SDR and moved into a team lead role. From there, moved into a project lead role where I help not only call on projects, but also manage them. A lot of different experiences I've had here, and it's all been great, and it's been a fun time, and happy to share that with you. I'll pass it over to Christian now.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christian England. I was previously with Demand Drive up until, was it March of this year, when I transitioned over to my new company, Aspire, who had been a client with Demand Drive for about a year, just over a year. I had about three different clients I worked with while I was at Demand Drive. Was lucky enough to stay within the same industry during my time with different clients in healthcare and benefits. And so now on Aspire, I do business development, account executive role, uh, objectives, and a number of things as well. But was able to leverage a lot of my SDR to senior SDR to now BDR account executive skills throughout my time. And happy to answer any questions on what that transition process looks like and what that negotiation steps are and all of those things that may be involved in transitioning away from Demand Drive or leveraging things to stay at Demand Drive as well.
Love that. Thank you, panelists, for that introduction. Before we kind of revert back to panelists' experience, I wanted to just take a step back and kind of remind you guys of what the Demand Drive kind of sales training approach is. Most of you guys are already aware and familiar with how we do this, but Demand Drive really is known for our sales training approach, and it all starts with our comprehensive onboarding. First, we educate our employees on the fundamental knowledge and skills in the art of selling. Then we give you practical sales experience under the supervision of a manager and a team of SDRs. And as you master that SDR role, you'll get exposure to many clients and industries, effectively building, an expansive sales portfolio. And this experience really lends itself well to pursuing an advanced sales career or leveraging the experience to pivot into something completely different. So here we have kind of a general overview of Demand Drive's career architecture. I would say 99% of employees start at Demand Drive as an SDR. With mastery of that role, a promotion to senior SDR becomes available. And from there are a few different core career advancement opportunities. You can continue your sales work at Demand Drive and kind of expand your sales portfolio. You can take advantage of a client transition opportunity, as Christian did, and assume sales work elsewhere as an SDR or even an account executive. You can take a management focused path like Mahoney did, and kind of look towards sort of the mentorship and development of future salespeople. Or you can take an entirely different career pivot, as AJ and Chelsea have done, where they really applied their experience as an SDR to pursue a brand new career. So a lot of different opportunities here. And the point that we really want to drive home is that you can use your experience as an SDR to really advance your career in any which way that you want. I'd love to hear from our panelists, about their experience starting at Demand Drive, how you used your time as an SDR, how and when you knew what career path you wanted to take or what steps you did to initiate it, and how you executed to make it happen.
Yeah, I can kick us off and start. Funny enough, I'm sure actually a lot of the audience don't know this part of the story, but I actually started at Demand Drive because my brother-in-law used to work here. Shout out to Brett if you know him. But before that, I had no real true sales experience. I had worked in retail for a number of years, and just before coming to Demand Drive, I was actually managing a gym and was studying and pursuing to become a personal trainer. And I was feeling kind of lost, didn't really know what kind of career path I wanted to do. After working in the gym, I realized that that was not for me. And I was having conversations with my brother-in-law, and based off of my personality and whatnot, he was like, you should really check out Demand Drive. I think you would be really good at it. And so here I am 8.5 years later, which is crazy. But it was really interesting to come in without having any awareness or any knowledge of what an SDR even was, or really like why I was getting into a sales career. But as I continued to do it, I found that there was a lot about the world of sales that I really loved. I loved the fact that anybody can find success in this job if you put your mind to it. There's no set formula to sales. That's why there's so many different people that can be successful in it. And so there was a lot that I loved about the sales world, but I did realize that the traditional kind of sales trajectory of becoming an account executive and closing my own deals wasn't quite something that I was interested in. So it really came down for me to start thinking about how can I maintain the things that I do like about working in sales in some capacity within the next step of my career. So that's kind of the moment, if you will, or the thought process that I had of how I kind of came to be where I am. And then, of course, the next part of the story, which I'm sure we'll get into later, is how you actually make that happen, right? What are the steps that you take? But I think that for anybody that has been at Demand Drive for a little while, or even is just starting and are already thinking about a few years or 5 years or 10 years down the line and where you want to be, the one thing I'll say is that it starts with mastering the SDR role. If you don't do that first, the rest is going to be tough. And there's so many useful skill sets that you learn being an SDR that can apply to so many different career paths and jobs. So that for me in my journey was really crucial. I wanted to really nail that part down so that I could say to myself, okay, I am ready to take that next step, and I have the foundation that I need in order to do so.
To piggyback off of what Chelsea just said real quick, similar experience for me. I don't want to like rehash the same story about like, oh, this is what I actually want to do, career trajectory changes. But I had a very candid conversation with the former marketing individual who worked at Demand Drive, Zach McCauley, who was kind of like the first person that really took on the ownership of that function of the business as an SDR, kind of doing it part-time like I was for a while. And originally I looked at marketing as a way to like not have to do the SDR role. Understandably, it's very difficult, right? To like sit down and convince yourself like, I'm going to make 80 phone calls today and everything's going to be hunky dory. Like it's a tough job and it grates on you very quickly. And you look for opportunities to do anything but that still contributes to the overall growth of like the business or your career in some capacity. And that was originally why I kind of gravitated towards marketing, because it was just something to do that wasn't make cold calls or kind of do the SDR job. But similar to what Chelsea was saying, like the prerequisite to be able to do something else is to be able to do your job as an SDR really well. And originally, that's pretty discouraging to think about. Like, I don't want to be an SDR forever, and no one expects you to be an SDR forever, but like, I know the role has a shelf life and I want to try and move up and out as fast as possible. But you also have to realize, and this was like a very slow burn for me, a lot of the things that I was doing day to day as an SDR still serve me today in ways that I would not be able to function without. Like, case in point, time management, I think, is one of the things that as an SDR, I originally lacked. And then when I started to develop that skill, got very good at the job. And today, if I didn't have those basic building blocks of how to effectively manage my time, I wouldn't be an effective marketer. Things like that you kind of understand during the role, and you can have that forward thinking mentality of like, this is something that will serve me today in the next 5 years for the rest of my career, latching onto those things and really focusing on like, okay, knowing that, how do I make this a crucial component to how I operate in this job? That's what's going to set you up for either a career in sales. If you pivot out of sales, if you go into management, doesn't matter. There are critical elements of being an SDR that will serve you far and beyond that role.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think the SDR role definitely does prepare you for multiple different jobs. One of them definitely being resilience and hard work is a big thing. You know, it's not easy to pick up the phone and make 80 dials like AJ had said, but it's, that's a lot of stuff that people don't have to deal with in other positions that they have to be in. But it's still, sort of those core principles that you'll take with you, whatever position you in, because there's going to be times where AJ or Chelsea are going to have to do something that's hard. And a lot of people maybe would shy away from that, but they've already experienced a lot of hardship, I would say, working through the SDR position. I think for me, sort of mastering those skills, moving into a senior SDR role, uh, I was sort of lost myself, and where I wanted to go next. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be an account executive or if I wanted to be um, you know, in management. And actually, my manager helped me out with that, Eli Smith, who had asked me, what is it you want to do? Like, you can't do this forever. You can't be a senior SDR forever. I mean, you can, but you know, you get the point. So I really had to take a step back and think about what I wanted to do, and I would see the account executive role is what they call an individual contributor role, where basically you're responsible, you're hunting for everything, you're sort of a lone wolf in a way, where you're not really, you're a part of a team for sure, but primarily everything is on you. And I mean, everything is always on you, but basically you're responsible for your own quota. And then also you have the management role, which I was a little bit more interested in, because there was that team feel, there was that mentorship and development, where you could help different people, become better at this role, and then help them, expand into what careers they're looking for. I've talked to people who are more interested in management. I've talked to people who are more interested in account executive role. And I'm lucky enough to have some experience with both types of roles that I can sort of help guide them on that. And that's what I find rewarding. I've been working with Code 42 for such a long time. And the best part of that project is the team. So that's the reason I really like it. And it was a good fit for me.
To
Love
kind of
that.
carry off what everyone else has already said, obviously really holds a lot of truth too. And for me, when I kind of transitioned into that senior SDR role, I remember having a conversation with my manager at the time, Tyler Schock, about kind of what future looks like, all of those things. And the goal that was set between him and I, for myself, was to kind of achieve a President's Club nomination. And it took a while, but everything that led up to that, based on what everyone has already kind of said, really holds true in the fact that it was honing my time management skills, really kind of understanding where I stand in the role of, this is not forever, but there's other opportunities that can open up if you are able to master the things that you are doing in this role today. And it really is a wide open range of things that you can do, whether it's something I did with client transition, or doing an AE role, or switching to anything else that everyone else has mentioned here. It really starts at kind of mastering those skills and understanding that some situations with clients might not be perfect and hunky dory, and you're not going to have the greatest support from a client sometimes, and different things that are out of your control, and learning to understand that you can only control what is in your control, the controllables. And if you're able to do that, at the end of the day, you're not going to be looked at poorly if results aren't where they should be, if things are out of your control in that sense. But if you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, you will see the success kind of follow after that, whether it be with that client, with another client, or in a different role outside of that entirely.
That's great.
To build off of Christian, what you just said, one of the mantras that I far too late in my career learned about, but started to really attribute to a lot of the success that I had very late as an SDR and then early on in sort of that transitionary period into becoming a marketer is to be easy to root for. Like the mentality that you want to have is to, if you're ever asking for something or you believe that you deserve something, you don't want the other person who's responsible for that to be like, oh, like here comes AJ again talking about how he should get XYZ. Like the attitude and effort that you put in, like Christian was saying, the controllables that you have, if you always put in 100% and you always have like a positive attitude and you're doing the work that you're supposed to do, it becomes really difficult for someone to not agree with you that like you should be taking the next steps in your career, whatever that direction might be. If you can have that mentality that like I'm a valuable asset and I want to prove that I'm a valuable asset and these are the things that I'm proactively doing to make that move, that's a lot easier for someone to meet you halfway versus like, well, I've been here for 9 months and I want to do the next best thing for me. So like, what is that? It's really easy to just like kind of expect something after a certain period of time, but merit based, if you can prove and proactively go after something, that becomes a lot easier for your manager, for their manager, for anyone working around or with you to also aid you in that journey, because realistically you can't do it alone. You have to be supported by other people.
Yeah. And to carry off of that, AJ, I think one of the things that I've always loved about Demand Drive and working here is the openness to explore, if you will. And there are so many different entities of this business. You have AJ and Alex in marketing that, you know, have side projects that I know other people help them work on. You have me in training where I have, you know, some senior SDRs helping with call shadowing or running certain sessions. And I think that that's such an important environment for anybody that's like me, where if somebody asks me like, hey, where do you want to be in 5 years? I'm like, I don't even know what I'm having for breakfast tomorrow. You know, it can be really hard and really almost debilitating to try to think that far ahead of what you want to do or where you want to be. And so I think when you're in an environment like Demand Drive, where there are some of those opportunities presented to you, even when you're still in the SDR role, it's a really great way to learn about what you're interested in and where you might want to take that next step. For me, quick little story, I was actually living out in California when from 2016 to 2018. And I was getting kind of like annoyed that every time I came back to the office, there was like 20 new people for me to meet. And I'm like, I don't like that I don't know all of my coworkers. And this was pre-Slack, okay? And so what I started to do is I reached out to all of the managers and I said, hey, anytime you have a new SDR join your team, send them my way and I'll do a role play with them. And that was a way for me, selfishly, to get to know my colleagues. But what that did is it actually sparked that passion that I actually have of working with people and coaching people and training people. And frankly, I don't know if I would have figured that out if I hadn't had that opportunity, or if I didn't take that initiative to reach out to the managers and just say, hey, I'm going to do this, send them my way. And I think, you know, back to AJ's point, it kind of takes, you have to take some level of ownership of you know, creating some of these opportunities for yourself versus waiting for somebody to present them to you.
Amen. What advice would you guys give to someone that's, you know, struggling with where they feel the next career path should be? They're kind of in between, you know, senior SDR, and they aren't really sure which route to take. Do you have any advice for someone in that position?
Talk to everyone. Find people in different roles. Meet with Chelsea and AJ, Akara. If you can, steal time from Dan and Lindsay, whoever it may be in different avenues. Find time to pick their brain, identify things that may be interesting to you in that role. And if that is the case, explore what are the steps to kind of achieving that next step of, okay, marketing is kind of something that really is interesting to me, but I can't really do marketing as an SDR, but I really want to explore what that might be going forward, and kind of pushing yourself. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if you put yourself out there and really just be proactive in approaching those individuals, in garnering that knowledge of what it takes to do these different types of roles, you'll be able to kind of identify and eliminate different areas that you do and do not want to be a part of.
Yeah, I totally agree with Christian as well. And I would think to add to that would also be to talk to your manager and see if there's anything you can potentially help out with, or maybe even if you're interested in marketing or training, asking AJ or Chelsea if there's anything that they need help with. I know for me, like, I'd love some extra help on some things, totally. Like, there's certain things that you can definitely help out with if you've made it to the senior SDR role. You've been pointed out as someone who's good at what they do. So there's definitely has to be something that can translate it, and you can kind of dip your toes into sort of the management aspect. I know Matt Helfrich was interested in like a team lead role a long time ago, and asked me what I needed to do to get there, and I was like, try running a contest. We want to hit certain KPIs and certain goals, set it up, get everybody involved, and have roll that out. Also helping out with training. I mean, a lot of the times, they would help out with different people, any new people who are being onboarded with call shadowing, and that's kind of a big part of what my job is as far as developing SDRs, which I think is the first step to becoming a manager. And you can take that and say, wow, I love it. Or you can take it and be like, wow, this really isn't for me. I really don't want to do this. I'd rather do something where it's only on my own merit. And you can kind of answer questions there, because I'm pretty sure no one here would deny extra help, no matter what it is.
I have
I
a
like
I have
this.
a question for Christian. I feel like a lot of SDRs, they join Demand Drive, they start as an SDR, they reach that senior SDR, and then they kind of get that itch where they're like, okay, I've been in Demand Drive now for 12 to 16 months. How did you go about either creating the client transition opportunity for yourself? Did you kind of manifest that and put it out there, or was it something that you just landed on a project that where it presented this opportunity for you? Can you speak to that? I feel like the client transition is really appealing to a lot of people.
My situation was a little unique, in the sense that Aspire we had went through an expansion period of SDRs and kind of hit a rut as a team overall. But throughout my time with my client there at Aspire, I really was starting to like what the company was doing as a whole, and really was drawing interest into their core values, what they were doing as a company. And as things kind of hit that rut, the team size decreased, and it kind of just turned into a one rep team of myself. And shortly after that, they had decided they were going to move on from Demand Drive. And myself and my boss now, who is our main point of contact, had a conversation of what my interest was. And I expressed that I'm very open to having a conversation and seeing what is available, what even does it look like, does it make sense? And like, is this financially going to make sense to make this move? Is this going to make sense for me long term? Is there a ceiling to my growth here? And kind of having those conversations and identifying that financially it did make sense for me to make that move, and seeing that there isn't really a ceiling as of now for me that's going to stop growth and kind of cap me at a certain point. And really just having conversations not only with my client on that transition, but also having internal conversations with members of Demand Drive of, I didn't really want to leave Demand Drive because I really enjoyed the culture, the people I was working with, and the opportunities that do exist at Demand Drive in a number of different ways, because I didn't think I was really set on being in sales forever. And I still don't think I am, but I think that Demand Drive had a lot of opportunities still, but I think the move I don't regret at all, but I do again appreciate all the time that I was able to hone these skills and learn what it takes to do these things. But it really was just a lot of back and forth between my client, Demand Drive, and then kind of having that self-reflection of what makes the most sense for me at the end of the day.
Right. And I think it's like important to call out too, like each of these different career paths, like Demand Drive considers that a success story. We don't hoard our employees and like, no, we don't want you to go. We want you to stay here. Like we encourage individual growth, organizational growth. Whether you want to pursue a sales career at Demand Drive or elsewhere, or pivot to a new career, like we still consider that a success story as long as you can utilize the experience that you've gained at Demand Drive to advance yourself professionally. So I think that's also an important message to relay to folks.
And one thing I want to continue on with that, on kind of getting to that client transition point, is during that lead up to my time transitioning over, you can't be someone who is quiet in the back during your client calls, someone who doesn't really engage with your client and provide input and feedback. And I think one of the things that gets lost is, I'm going to join this client call. My manager is going to present the weekly report. We're going to review these numbers, and then I'm going to go back and make dials and send emails and do whatever else is a part of it. But identifying things that maybe are troubling you in your day to day and bringing that to your client of like, hey, I need some more out of marketing, challenging them, obviously within a respectful manner. Of course, you don't want to call out and be disrespectful in any way possible, but being professionally challenging your client in ways and trying to leverage what may help you overall as an SDR. And they'll notice that and identify that, hey, this person isn't just here to hit the dial and move on to the next and doesn't really care, and showing interest in what your client is doing. And again, it's not always going to be like that for every client, but if you do find one that really fits what you're looking for and you see the opportunity, don't be afraid to take that next step.
And Christian, you saying that, I think really also bounces back to the point of mastering that SDR role. Mm-hmm. And it starts with that, right? Because once that happens, that's what really opens up those other opportunities, right? You wouldn't have had that opportunity for that client transition if you hadn't built that relationship with your client, if you hadn't mastered that role and been successful in it. So I think for anybody that's, newer at Demand Drive and already knows, I obviously meet everybody that walks through the door. And oftentimes people say, like, I came to Demand Drive because I want to learn and I want to grow. Take the time to learn, because the growing will happen if you learn the job. Those opportunities will present themselves. And so I just wanted to circle back to that, because I think it really that was such a great way to put it, Christian. And I think it really does always come back to that, right? So regardless of where you are in your tenure, there is an opportunity for you to build additional skill sets here at Demand Drive, whether it's we're always onboarding new people. So whether it's, reaching out to somebody that's new and saying, hey, I'm available if you want to do a role play, or if you want me to look over your messaging, or like Mahoney mentioned, reaching out to your manager and seeing what you could maybe help with or take off their plate to learn additional skill sets, or reaching out to myself or AJ and seeing, what we might need help with. There are ways while you're still here to gain those skill sets that, again, will open up some of those other opportunities, further down the line or in the future.
And that's a skill in and of itself too. And one of the things that I think I've taken with me from the SDR role and will continue to take with me throughout my entire career is the growth mindset, the curiosity that you need to have as an SDR to ask those questions, like Christian was saying, and to be able to communicate a need or a challenge or a desire with your client, and be able to overcome some hurdles and know, like, maybe this isn't the best way we can do things, and let's creatively think about how we can tackle a challenge a different way. That's a skill set that you have, that you can take with you, that you also can use to further your own career internally at Demand Drive or outside of it. Coupling that with proactivity, I think those are like the two biggest things for me. Being proactive and having that growth or curiosity-based mindset are the two things that will really, give you the opportunity to learn and grow and move your career in the direction that you want. But B, are also skills that you can take from your SDR role into that next role. Because no matter where you are, those are valuable assets that you can bring to the table. Even if you're a chief marketing officer somewhere, like, you're always going to need to be curious. You're always going to want to grow. You always have to be proactive. And so very twofold, like there are things that you need to advance your career, and there are things that you take with you as that career advances.
Yeah, and I think another thing that sometimes gets lost as you advance in your career is that you're taking on more responsibility. So that doesn't mean you can kind of leave back your past responsibilities. There was a long time where I was still on Code 42, but I was also managing Digital Impulse as well as helping out with training on Code 42, but I still had a number attached to me. So I still had to, I couldn't be like, well, I was training all these people and I was doing this and I was putting together this report. So I wasn't able to really perform. That's not really going to fly with my manager. So just kind of keep that in mind, that you sort of have to keep pushing beyond and keep pushing for that extra limit to become better. And it'll be tough at first, but like SDR work was, like there was a time where I didn't think I could be an SDR and then I did it. And then there's a time I didn't think I could be a senior SDR and I did that, or a team lead. And you kind of continue to do that and you continue to develop and you learn the habits that you need, and then eventually it becomes second nature, and then you're looking for that new challenge. So I mean, it may seem like a lot sometimes in advancement. It can be a little scary, be like, wow, I'm going to really make a fool of myself. But it's better to sort of try it out and see what happens than to sort of leave it as a question. So I just wanted to add that.
I think there's that phrase, it's like the most growth comes when you're in that like uncomfortable zone, challenging yourself. So yeah, it can be super scary and daunting, but the more you kind of put yourself in those situations and have a good support system around you, like that's when you have the opportunity to thrive.
And I think also to piggyback off of what you were saying, Mike, being realistic and understanding that when you do have these conversations or you do initiate these different opportunities, that it does come with a level of responsibility, and it does come with more work. And that's part of the growth, right? That's part of what you were talking about, Mike. It's not just going to be handed to you without with all of your other responsibilities gone. Oftentimes it comes on top of what you're already doing, at least in that initial step. And to your point, Mike, like that can be overwhelming, and it can be a lot. But that is a realization or an understanding that you do have to have, is that when you do grow and when you do take on something like helping your manager or helping AJ on marketing, that does come as an extra layer of responsibility on top of the work that you are already responsible for. So with that being said, be ready for that. Be ready to take it on, and be open to that, when you're having these conversations with folks, so it doesn't come so much of a surprise.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think true growth definitely comes from making yourself uncomfortable. It's tough. Like nobody likes to be uncomfortable. Everybody would rather, be in bed, lying down, but, you know, not going out or, running a marathon or, doing other things or stuff like that. But if you really want to grow, you do have to put yourself in those situations. And trust me, I was freaking out. Eli can tell you. So, but after a while, you get over it and you kind of, you know, sort of sink into the role, and it's definitely worth it. Definitely worth growing.
You
I
built some
can't tell you the
confidence.
number of
That's for sure.
times.
Sorry, go ahead.
I can't tell you the number of times that I, like early on, like 2017, 2018, first like taking full control of the marketing department, being like, I actually have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And like having that moment of just like, I don't know how to do this. Like, this is a thing I've never done before, but now I know it's part of my responsibility and I have to learn it. Now, those are things that they're like Mike was saying, it's all second nature. And you're going to have those moments, and you just have to understand that and push past it. Yeah, 2018 was a weird time.
I think everybody in the SDR role has the advantage, though, because we're used to being put in those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah, you're doing a hard job already.
You're learning all of those skill sets already as an SDR, which is why, any of like the younger people that I have in my life, I'm always like, be an SDR, just do it. Like, you might not love it, but try it, because I mean, before I started at Demand Drive, I was one of those people that if I was with a group of people and we were ordering food, I was like, will you call and make the order? Like, I wouldn't call anybody that I didn't know, right? So I think everybody here that's in this role, you guys already have an advantage of other people out there, because you're already building, like we've been talking about, certain skill sets that are going to help you in your career growth. And especially the part about being uncomfortable, because I know for sure we have all been there in the SDR role. That is a fact.
I know we've been talking at the audience a little bit. I wanted to open it up if there's any questions from our audience members.
Yeah, let's hear them. Give us a question.
Yeah, any brain busters? Alex
Not
is gonna
all.
let me know if there's anything in the chat.
I can see he said, put your questions here. That's the last chat
Okay.
that I can see. I'm also looking at the back end live, like
Oh, are
YouTube
you?
studio, so I can see what's happening back here.
I can't do that. It makes me dizzy.
I almost can't do it because my computer might catch on fire if I open up new tabs.
Alex is saying not a lot going on in the chat at the moment, which is fine. Do you guys have any last minute words of wisdom or advice for people? I want everyone on the line, whether you're at Demand Drive or you were invited to the symposium, like, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us, LinkedIn, or if you're at the company, you can just Slack us, email us. We're happy to have a conversation with you directly or answer any questions you may feel more comfortable asking one-on-one. But yeah, I would love to. Just got a question.
Yes.
Thought about having an alumni group. We do have a group, actually. There is a Demand Drive alumni group on LinkedIn. And as employees depart from Demand Drive, pursue a client transition, things like that, we add them to the LinkedIn alumni group to ensure that we still have connections with those that leave the company. Christian, I believe you're in the LinkedIn group, correct?
I believe so. I'll double check just to make sure after this, but if I'm not, I'll be in there after this.
Okay.
That's actually a side note. I would just go to the Drive page if you haven't done it already and just connect with everybody at Demand Drive, because you have no idea. Like, if you're looking to stay within the sales place, I feel like there's so many Demand Drive alumnus at this point that are just all over the place. So there could be someone there who
hundreds
you may know, and trust me, like, they go crazy places.
Yeah. Demand Drive, I feel like just any employee from Demand Drive generally comes out to have a very strong reputation. I think that Demand Drive employees are highly reputable, not only in the sales industry, but just as good workers. So yeah, connect with us. If we're not friends yet on LinkedIn, like, by all means, friend us.
And they're also, like, happy to help. Like, a lot of organizations, when you become like an alumni or alumnus, I guess is the non-plural version, it's easy to just like disconnect and be like, yeah, like, I used to work at XYZ company, I used to work at Oracle or whatever, but like, and I keep in touch with a few people, but like, you can't expect that like a total stranger who you've never met before that now works at that company would reach out to you and be like, hey, can I pick your brain for a couple of minutes? Like, a lot of companies don't have people who leave and kind of go down that path. I can almost guarantee you that I've been here for 10 years. I know pretty much almost anybody that's come in and out of Demand Drive since its inception. If you ask about any of our alumni and you say, hey, this person is doing a job that I want to have in a couple of years, or they're working for a company that looks really cool and I would love to pick their brain, 99 times out of 100, they're probably going to be like, oh, you work at Demand Drive? Absolutely. I'll take a 15-minute call with you just to chat. We have very friendly alumni in a majority of cases, which is great because you can leverage that community. Just because, like, like Mahoney was saying and Kara was saying, people go on to do unbelievable things and work in crazy places, not just for the benefit of us, because then they become clients, but like for the benefit of the current employees, because they've done this job, they know what it takes to be successful, and they've taken their next step in their career, and they can coach you or mentor you or whatever on how to do the same thing. So don't be shy to reach out to us.
And just in that realm, I know that there's probably a lot of folks in the audience that haven't been here for over 2 years. But the past 2 years, we did what we called our alumni symposium, where we actually invited all alumni back as panelists to speak about a pretty similar conversation as we're having today, their experience at Demand Drive, how they leveraged that skill set and where they are today. I would invite you guys to, go back and listen to those recordings or watch those recordings of those sessions. Especially if you found this conversation valuable, that will give you some more insight, especially in terms of that external growth or transition. So I just wanted to call that out as well.
Noted alumnus panelist Brett Hovanek, the brother-in-law Chelsea was talking about at the beginning, who brought her into Demand Drive. So
that's right. Can't wait to tell him he was brought up.
Right? What a legend.
That won't inflate his ego in any capacity.
No, not at all. Any other audience questions, Kara, or is that just about?
Nothing else is coming through in the chat at the moment, but to reiterate, don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us afterwards and directly if you do have questions. I think this was a really great symposium with a lot of valuable. I can't thank our panelists enough for joining, especially Christian, taking time out of your day at a new company, new job. We really, really appreciate it. Am I missing any other housekeeping items, Chelsea?
I don't believe so. This is the last symposium of 2023, so we'll kick off 2024. We usually do it at the end of each quarter, so we'll let everybody know what that topic will be and when the date will be. But obviously, we'll be looking forward to it. And thank you, Kara, for moderating today's symposium. It was such a nice treat to have you on here, and also for me to actually speak on a panel. It was a lot of fun, so thank you.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I was happy to do it. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great night, and I look forward to connecting with our audience members on LinkedIn or Slack or whatever we can do to help you guys. We're here for you. So thanks so much, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Everybody.
Bye, y'all.